Some killers leave clues. Some leave chaos. But the ones in this story, they left silence. And sometimes, silence is the loudest thing of all. 3 cases. 3 killers. None of them ever caught. And the third case? It's still unfolding. If you're the kind of person who thinks all crimes get solved, you might want to stay until the end. It started with a dog. In February 2009, a woman in Albuquerque, New Mexico, was walking her dog along a stretch of undeveloped land known as the West Mesa. It was dry, barren. The kind of place where no one paid attention. But her dog started digging, and what it found wasn't a bone from an animal. Within hours, police were on site. What followed was one of the most horrifying discoveries in New Mexico's history. By the end of the excavation, they had found the remains of 11 women and 1 unborn child, all buried in shallow graves across the mesa. 11 lives, all gone. Quietly, slowly, over years. And no one had noticed. The victims had one thing in common. They were all women involved in sex work or struggling with addiction. Some were young mothers, some were barely in their 20s. All of them had gone missing between 2003 and 2005. And for years, their disappearances had been brushed off. Transient, runaways, no urgency. But someone had been collecting them. The way the bodies were arranged, the spacing, the shallow graves, it all pointed to one conclusion. This wasn't a dumping ground. It was a pattern. The media began calling the unknown killer the West Mesa Bone Collector, but authorities couldn't give him a face or a name. Several suspects were considered. A former convict who lived nearby. A man who owned a landscaping business and was known for hiring sex workers. Another with a long history of violence against women. But nothing ever stuck. No DNA. No surveillance. No witness who lived to talk. And then, the land changed. Construction began. The graves were paved over. And the killer? He disappeared, if he ever left at all. To this day, not a single person has been arrested. No justice, no answers, just 11 women, forgotten once in life and nearly forgotten again in death. The year was 1971, Washington, D.C. 6 young girls, ages 10 to 18, went missing over the span of a year. Each was last seen walking to the store, heading to school, or simply going home. None of them made it. Their bodies were later discovered, dumped alongside roads, in grassy areas near highways, or just off the freeway. Each girl had been taken, their lives stolen, and left to be found like garbage. But the horror didn't stop there. One of the girls was found with a piece of paper stuffed into her clothing. On it was a handwritten message. This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. It was misspelled, sloppy, but chilling. Whoever wrote it had no remorse. Whoever did this wanted to be noticed, just not caught. The press dubbed him the Freeway Phantom, and for a brief moment the city was on edge. But then, something strange happened. The story faded. The coverage died down. And the girls, who were all African American, many from low-income neighborhoods, faded from the headlines. People moved on, but the families never did. The FBI got involved. A task force was formed. Dozens of leads were followed. Still, nothing. Years passed. Then, decades. Suspects came and went. One was a group of brothers tied to other violent crimes. Another was a convicted killer who claimed to have knowledge of the case, but his statements never added up. And through it all, the killer remained anonymous. 6 girls, 6 families destroyed. and a city that never fully answered for its silence. The freeway phantom didn't just vanish. He dissolved into the cracks of a system that never cared enough to keep the light on. In 2010, a woman named Shannon Gilbert disappeared after making a frantic 911 call. She was in Oak Beach, a private community near Long Island, New York. She ran through the streets, begging for help. Neighbors saw her. Then, she was gone. The police searched for Shannon for months, but instead of finding her, they found something else. And it changed everything. While combing the area near Gilgo Beach, they uncovered the remains of 4 women wrapped in burlap. And as the search expanded, the number grew. 10 sets of remains, 10 lives, scattered along a stretch of beach highway hidden in the brush. Most of the victims were young women who had worked as escorts, using online platforms to connect with clients. And like the women in New Mexico, many had been dismissed when they disappeared. But this time, the press took notice. The killer was methodical. He chose women who had limited social ties. He spaced the remains out, giving the illusion of randomness. But it wasn't random. And then there were the phone calls. In one case, the killer allegedly used the victim's phone to call her sister, a man's voice. Calm, cold. He mocked her. Another call was made to a victim's mother. Same voice, same eerie control. The FBI got involved. The task force grew, and for over a decade, there was nothing. Until 2023. Rex Hoyerman, an architect, a father. He was arrested and charged with the murders of 3 of the women. Authorities say the evidence is strong. DNA, burner phones, search history. But here's the thing. There are at least 6 more victims. And for those, no one has been charged. Some believe there may be more than one killer. Others think Rex is just the beginning. Shannon Gilbert's death? Still ruled as undetermined. Still unsolved. The Long Island serial killer case is far from over, and for the families, closure is still a distant concept. This isn't a cold case. It's an open wound. 3 killers. 3 paths of destruction. 3 communities forever changed. From the deserts of New Mexico, to the freeways of D.C., to the shores of Long Island. They planned. They prayed. They disappeared. Some may still walk among us. Some may be watching these videos, reading the news, pretending to care. But the truth doesn't vanish. It waits. And when it resurfaces, it demands answers. Stay aware, and stay until the end, because the stories that keep us up at night are the ones that never had an ending.